Oh, we're here in the drum section. Students are filling the air up with fireworks, the atmosphere. We're ready to go. College football week 1, and we kick it off Thursday night. A lot of great games to get to, including prime time in prime time. Deion Sanders, Colorado Buffaloes, big time favorites over North Dakota State. We'll talk a little bit about that, whether or not it's a recipe for disaster for Colorado or Shador Sanders is he the real deal. It's kind of how I'm seeing this game. But enough of me. Joining me as always, this is Beef Up Front. Beef himself, Ryan Coyle. Good evening, Ryan.
Let's go. I'm ready. The most anticipated college football season ever. Got a bit of the appetizer last week, but I'm here. I'm ready to go. This is what we wait for all year, and it's here. And once it's here, it flies by. By every single week. So you got to appreciate it. You don't know how many football seasons you get in your life, but every game matters. It's awesome. We're here, ready to rock, full slate tonight, and let's get this thing moving into the weekend.
Got the multi-view ready to go for YouTube. Got Rutgers up by 2 touchdowns with a pick 6 early. No action on Rutgers tonight, was there?
No, I had no play in that one.
All right, Beef, here's the funny story. North Carolina, Minnesota. Seen it from both sides. Of course, if people have been paying attention to the Daily Ticket and everything that you've been able to do on socials all week long, of course, the big brains you guys getting together, this number was flipped as late as Saturday last week or last weekend. And the UNC Tar Heels were catching 2.5. Now they're 2.5-point favorites. All week we've been saying, well, wait till we get to kickoff, because PJ Fleck was saying that's when you're going to find out whether or not there's any injuries to be worried about or not. Here's the issue with this game at this point in time. It is now pushed back to 9 p.m., but the numbers remains the same. Carolina 2-point favorites, 53 is your total game being played in Minnesota. Beef, I want to start with you on this one. Game being pushed back. Hey, look, I was supposed to go on following this game on Fox 29. We're going early now, recording it, which is a beautiful thing. But your thoughts as far as where we're at with the line right now, because I thought that was a big-time storyline as far as sports gambling is concerned.
Yeah, so Minnesota's top receiver, he will be playing. He will be in action. He was one of the guys that was a game-time decision. The running back, still a game-time decision. He was their go-to guy last year, over 1,000-yard rusher, Taylor. So he's a true kind of game-time decision, so we might not find that out. And it's a team that I think is going to be leaning on the run. They just brought in a FCS transfer from New Hampshire. Threw for over 8,000 yards, and he was the Walter Payton Award winner, which is the FCS Heisman in college. But, that's New Hampshire. Now you're going up to UNC. Severe weather issues, though. I'm not sure if you mentioned that as to why it's delayed, but yeah, severe thunderstorms. It could be a really messy one. My guy Joey Jets, he's riding with the Gophers, so I rode with him on that one. But I think if we're going to get this really bad weather, you look at North Carolina, they're strong in the running game with Hampton at running back, and Minnesota has some issues there right now at the running back spot. It sounds like I might be leaning more towards going with the Tar Heels. But I also think this could be an under game, especially if that weather continues. That number's all the way up at 53. These two teams played last year, and I think it was 31-14 UNC, and Drake May played in that game and threw for 400 yards. So you look at that, Drake May is out of the picture. Max Johnson at quarterback. I think this is going to be a really run-heavy team. UNC, a run-heavy game. The closer we get to kickoff, the more I'm liking North Carolina. But I think it's a good one. I really can't fault you going either way on this, but as we get closer, I'm going with UNC there.
You're going with UNC. You're going with the Tar Heels.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that seems to be where I think Mark Henry Jr. is going. I believe he's on the Tar Heels as well.
I think he got 1.5 as well.
Yeah, but I've seen a few people talk about Minnesota lately, and I'm just curious with those injuries, and the fact that we did see a line flip like that. Again, you're only going to necessarily see that type of movement, 5.5-point swing, due to two things, either money coming in or injuries. And this number's been hanging on the board for quite some time because it's week 1 in the college football season. So that's not the reason. So I really do believe that we are looking at some injuries that will make a difference in this game. Again, you pointed out still playing, but at the same time, something's smelling right now. So for me, I'm going to back the Tar Heels. Again, I'm a little cautious, though, because obviously It's game one, nothing too crazy. I'm not going to beat my chest over this, but I'm going to roll with UNC on this one. Tough spot on the road, but I do like you said, just the run game, being able to pound it a little bit more as far as being physical with the weather. But I'm not going to sit here and make the case that Minnesota can't hang. They're at home. PJ Fleck seems like he's going to have his team ready no matter what. So it's going to be a good game, tough game, but maybe talk me in a little bit more to the under here.
Yeah, I think, as we said, with the weather, that plays a big factor. And it went under this total last year when these two teams met up. And I think you can agree that the North Carolina offense last year was a more explosive group. And they still only put up 31 points. I think if you can point to one thing with PJ Fleck consistently, it's that defense is tough. So if this game is, pound it 20-17, something like that, I could see it in the terrible weather. Not ideal for your first game as a quarterback for Minnesota with Max Browser, I believe his name is, but making the jump from FCS to FBS, basically throwing you out there in a hurricane and kind of saying good luck. And it's a Power 5 team. You don't have New Hampshire on the schedule, his former school. So it's kind of a welcome to the FBS moment for him, and he could be a bit of a culture shock. So I think that ground game, especially with the ground game injuries, even if Taylor does play for Minnesota, he's still banged up. He's not 100%. He's missed a lot of time at training camp. So Hampton, I think many people would argue, is the top running back in the country, maybe top 2 or 3 with Ollie Gordon in there in the picture. But that Minnesota run game and the UNC run game, I think, are the focal points of these offenses. Bad weather, I think the under's got to be for sure in consideration for you there at 53.
All right. Yeah, and that's something to definitely keep our eyes on here. Right now, I'm just trying to figure out what the total was as far as if it came down at all due to the weather.
54.5.
54.5.
I think I saw that as of like last week, and now it's 53 now. So
yeah, it is dropping. I am seeing 52. I'm seeing some other stuff there as well, some other books. But you're right, and you know how that's going to play out. If everybody wants a little action on tonight's game, that's a very average Joe, easy wager if I can to take the under as far as a bad weather game is concerned. And it's already game 1, week 1, so you really don't want to give the offenses too much credit here. So I wouldn't have an issue taking the under no matter what. Seeing 52.5 at some shops as well. As you pointed out, 54.5, it did basically stay the whole time. All right.
And I heard today as well, PJ Fleck 2-5 against the spread at Minnesota in season openers. So extra time to prepare. Other coaches might have a leg up on him. And you look across the sideline, Mac Brown, most people are probably taking him in the coaching matchup. So that was something I think to take into consideration as well.
Agreed. All right, we do have some line movement in the Colorado game. Let's get on up to Boulder, Colorado, and we're now hanging at 11.5. Ryan Beef Coyle. Interesting. Now, again, going back to what I just said, there's a caveat. When you have a team like Deion Sanders' Colorado Buffaloes, a 2-point swing could possibly happen no matter just for the simple fact that they showed up that night. Yeah, exactly. Yep. But we're at 11.5, so you have to ask yourself how many is too many, right? I do think the world of Shedeur Sanders. I think the world of Travis Hunter. I actually think Deion is a great motivator, and that's going to be an incredible atmosphere up there in Boulder, Colorado. But again, we're talking about a program that continues to play. That's all the way through December. That's one of, if not the most successful program literally since 2010 in all of college football. To check the numbers on that. This is a moment for them. This is one of those games. I don't want to give these FBS teams, more credit than they deserve, but I think a team like North Dakota State deserves that praise and deserves people saying, you know what, this could be a good game, but I just think it's going to be too much for them in this moment. And I think Colorado's going to live up to the hype tonight. Shedeur Sanders is an unbelievable quarterback. I don't even know who's the quarterback for North Dakota State, but Shedeur Sanders is going to be better than him. So I how many is too many in your mind, Beef? But where I stand right now, I got to look at Colorado.
Yeah, we talked about this briefly the other day. I think the major difference is the 2 stars for Colorado with Hunter and Shedeur. say what you want about the FCS and North Dakota State's dominance at that level, but they haven't seen two dudes like this. I mean, that's for sure. The speed and the wide receiver room kind of got revamped a little bit this offseason as well at Colorado. They're going to have a lot more speed on the perimeter. And I do think one thing to monitor too, North Dakota State's head coach left in the offseason. He went to go become the linebacker coach at USC, an assistant head coach. A lot of times when the North Dakota State coach has moved up to the FBS level, they've promoted from within. They went and got an outside guy this time. Last coach at Wyoming, I believe, on the offensive staff, and somewhere else too. I can't remember off the top of my head. I heard it earlier today. But this could be kind of a different identity of a North Dakota State team than what we're used to seeing, and they're usually really good at the line of scrimmage, really good up front. And my kind of sticking point on why I like Colorado in this one is because we saw how good and how electric they could be on the offensive side of the ball last year when they had their guys healthy, when Shedeur Sanders was upright. As the season went on, depth became a major concern. Travis Hunter was forced to miss games. That's when they really started to fall off. You're getting them fresh in this one. As you said, all eyes on them as well. And we have so many great games this weekend. Georgia, Clemson, Notre Dame, A&M, Florida, Miami. I guarantee you this game will be in the top 5 in the ratings, though. Like this is like America's team pretty much. It seems like everyone kind of has their eyes on this squad. So I think the number might get pumped up a little bit more, maybe even hit 12, just because, like we said, people are going to be watching and throwing some coin on them. I don't know if I would necessarily take that. I thought that 10 number was kind of where you go. I would look more towards like the Colorado team total. I don't know that number off the top of my head, but I do think they'll be able to put up some points with that speed that they have on the offensive side.
Just a huge spot, an absolutely huge spot for both teams. Did you say something the other day that Dion was almost like mad at who scheduled this game for week 1?
He said it at Big 12 Media Day. He was like, man, like I'm pissed at my AD. I wanted a cupcake. North Dakota State ain't no cupcake is pretty much what he said word for word.
Yeah. Yeah, again, North Dakota State, as I said, they've won 17 NCAA FCS championships. And, look,
17.
it's ridiculous. Last year, they were 11-4. They ended up losing 31-29 double OT game to Montana in the FCS semis. South Dakota State went on to win it all last year for their back-to-back runs. Oh, by the way, they haven't lost a game since the opening week in 2022 against Iowa by a final score of 7-3. South Dakota State. More on them a little bit later. But Beef, I want to talk myself into all of these, these Davids versus Goliaths, right? But like, they're not on the same level. And I think we saw it last week with Montana State and the Lobos, right? It's like, Montana State's supposed to be this big bad team and in the FCS. And man, it took everything for them not to lose that game down there to a terrible New Mexico team. So, but I get it. It's a different case here, much different programs, different teams. But I like where your mind is at on the dig as far as the coaches are concerned and the hiring process there. I think there is something to that. And for me, tonight's game, why not? Roll with Shedeur, roll with Colorado. I hate the 11. I hate the 11.5.
Yeah. I like that
I
9.5 was nice.
Yeah. Yeah. We were under double digits for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to tell you to take Montana, or I'm not going to tell you to take North Dakota State just because it's a point up. So, 11.5. I'm still Colorado. I'm not going to front on that.
Yeah. I'm taking a quick look to see what that team total is.
55 is our total for the game in that one. The team total for, excuse me.
Looks like you can get over 33.5 at -130 or over 34.5 at plus 100. So, I mean, I do think the speed is going to be a major issue. I think if you're back in Colorado, definitely look towards the points as well, because if this game becomes a slugfest, like I think I follow this sport as closely as many people. Couldn't even tell you who Colorado's starting running back is. I know Dylan Edwards transferred to Kansas State, but this is just a team that's, Shedeur is going to throw the ball around the yard 45, 50 times. If you think Colorado is going to win this game, they're going to go out there and put up some points and be basically like, all right, we're going 5 wide. We got a bunch of track stars and Travis Hunter out here. North Dakota State hasn't seen that. Make them uncomfortable. Make them kind of play your game. If it becomes a slower slugfest type game, that favors North Dakota State for sure.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you on that one. Big season, as I said, for both programs, of course. Probably this game definitely is a heck of a lot bigger for Colorado. Colorado's last winning full season back in 2016. They have lost 6 straight games, and they went 4-8 last season. So big spot for Dion to live up to the hype, right? And I asked this question earlier, B, for as far as college football is concerned, the consumer standpoint. I, I don't want to see Colorado lose. Not tonight. No, way too early in the game for that. We need Colorado to win, and I don't want them squeaking by either. I want them to win by double digits and prime time to be, full chest out going, who's up? Who's up next? It's Nebraska, right? Then
Nebraska
Colorado
next
State.
Saturday.
Let's go. And they're underdogs versus Nebraska.
Yeah, I believe that one's in Lincoln, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big spot tonight. Let's go. All right. Excited for that one. Any final thoughts as far as Colorado or North Dakota State is concerned?
Just looking forward to it. We said it last year, but there was a point where I was running to the TV to turn on Colorado football and get them fully healthy at the beginning of the season. If they can be half as entertaining as that TCU game to open the season last year, we should be in for a fun night.
All right. We got some big spreads here for some pretty good programs. So I want to get your thoughts on a few of these games that are also going off this evening. First of all, 2 teams, and this isn't a big spread, but I am looking forward on CBS Sports, Coastal Carolina and Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State 3.5-point favor. I am looking forward to it. We'll have a screen here. Heck, I'm watching Howard and Rutgers. Why would I not tune into that one here? Anything for you? I feel like we hit on that one a little earlier as far as recording is concerned.
Yeah, Jacksonville State's a team. I actually have their over season win total 7.5. They actually have one of the best offensive linemen in the country, a projected potential first rounder, a former transfer from Georgia. So this is going to be a team that I think looks to run the ball a lot. And Rich Rod, as we know, he runs a pretty exciting style of offense. I heard a stat today, 20.9 seconds is the time in between snaps for him. So this is a team that likes to kind of get up and down. I'm in a season long. You pick 10 games against the spread a week. Jacksonville State is one of the teams I picked this week. I got them at 2.5 though. That number's up to 3.5. I think they win by a touchdown though. Coastals definitely take a step back. Jamie Chadwell, the coach from a few years ago, he's at Liberty now, but the player that really carried that program these past 3 to 4 years, Grayson McCall, he's the quarterback for NC State now. I think Coastal definitely takes a significant step back, and I really like Jacksonville State at home in this one. I didn't bet it straight up, but as I said, I have them in the pool, and then I have them on the season win total. So I feel comfortable with them laying even that 3.5 tonight. I think they win this game at home by a touchdown.
Yeah, I also roll with you on that one, Jacksonville State, and just based off of the number 3.5, I'm giving it there. Feel comfortable with that number, but riding your coattails on that one with Jacksonville State. All right, next game up that I want to talk to you about, team with a lot of expectations, 50-point spread, Missouri and Murray State here, 62.5 is our total. Game is going down at 8 o'clock. Beef, Missouri, and the reason why I'm asking about these big spreads is because if just maybe a little overreaction after week 1 with all 4 dogs covering, and we saw some big spreads in a few of those games. So here we are right now with such a gigantic number. Could they hit it? Of course, they have the weapons. As a matter of fact, I was just watching a replay of last year's game against Kentucky, and they were explosive. But where I stand right now, it's week 1, and I think it's worth a shot. If you're going to back a dog here, just take as many points. And that seems like such an average Joe stance, but it is the reality of where my mind is at right now after that first 4, the weekend we just had with the first 4 games. So your thoughts on that one, Missouri, if they hit the ground running, they can cover that number. I'm sure you're going to say, though.
Yeah, I think if they want to pedal to the metal, foot on the gas, all 4 quarters, they could easily cover this number. I have Missouri as an 11-win team. I have them as one of the best teams in the entire country this year going to the playoff. But when you play in the SEC, when you play such a, difficult schedule pretty much week in, week out, their non-con's pretty easy compared to that. I think they're going to treat this week, and they have Buffalo next week, kind of as their preseason, basically. Try and get the work in with Brady Cook and Luther Burden. They do have a new DC in there, so I would look at the defense to probably play a lot more. But you got to keep those 2 guys healthy, Brady Cook and Luther Burden. Luther Burden's like the number 1 prospect on a lot of people's draft boards as a wide receiver. That's pretty unheard of. So you want to keep those guys as healthy as possible, get them off the field. If they're up 42-0 at the end of 3, there's no reason to trot those guys back out there when, you got Alabama on the schedule in about a month. So I think that's a good kind of point by you where these huge numbers maybe take a chance on the dog. I think like Lindenwood is playing Kansas tonight as a 40-point dog or something. 49-point dog. Yeah. I mean, those are big numbers. And as I said at the beginning, if these teams wanted to, they could easily cover those. But I think it's a circumstance of just how long are they really going to play. The other way to kind of look at it, maybe take these teams in the first half instead, get up 28-0 and rest the guys after that. I think that's kind of, the better angle if you're in favor of the favorites. But full game, I would probably lean towards the dogs just because I don't think the starters will play the entire night.
Yeah, like you're talking about with NC State minus 20.5 for the favorite here against Western Carolina. I actually like the Wolfpack both ways if I was going to lay the number, but 20.5 is where I'd be comfortable laying for that first half. And then, like I said, for the game, nothing's really driving me to
like Lindenwood against Kansas. Their team total in the first half is a half a point. Like that's insane.
Nice. All right. Yeah. Look, as far as the big spreads are concerned, and that's what we're going to see for the next week or so, and there'll always be big spreads mixed in. But I did want to update this. Bowling Green rips off the opening kickoff against Fordham at a house. They're currently up 13-0 in that one. Wake Forest up against NC A&T 7-0. 6 minutes to go in the first. We're all square at UCF, 6-0 UCF. Against New Hampshire, and Central Michigan up by 7 currently with 5:30 to go against Central Connecticut State. So on to the 7:30 card here. And as I said, really not much there to offer, but really the 8 o'clock is where the window is a little bit more infatuated. And then North Carolina, Minnesota has been pushed back to 9. Southern Utah and Utah, anything for you, Beef there, 38-point spread?
I don't have any plays outside of the North Dakota State Colorado game there, or excuse me, the Jacksonville State as well. Because as we were just talking about, these numbers are really big. But Utah, I do want to that it's a game I'm going to be peeking in at. Cam Rising's first action in over a year, live action. He needs the reps as well. He's a guy that actually might play the entire game because he needs to kind of get his feet under him a little bit more. So that's a team I'm going to be tuning in for sure, but no official play for me. I think a lot of this season obviously comes down to the health of Rising and seeing how he looks. I mean, Mark Henry Jr. said it the other day, like football players basically having a year off of football. We've seen kind of what it can do. I mean, look at just Deshaun Watson, what had happened to him. Like, what does Cam Rising look like? A lot of people have Utah in the Big 12 title game. He could come back and be a completely different player than we once saw. So I think that's a guy to kind of keep a close eye on tonight, especially against an inferior opponent, if he's able to kind of have his way still with them.
I did get some action on NC State first half, so add that to the card. So we got a few plays here on a Thursday night when I was trying to just, enjoy myself on the couch until I got to go
back.
down.
The action's back. It's there for the taking. We're in now. Like there's no more playing around. There's no more betting. No run first inning on the Phillies game. We got college football to bet. It's awesome.
That's right. All right, Beef. So as I said, I'm heading down to Fox 29. Going to do some television tonight, and they asked me to give them 3 plays. So here's my 3 plays. Rank them. You ready?
Yep.
Well, you tell me if you like them, not rank them. First and foremost, for the standpoint of show synergy, and Julian's been very hot, and he had this one early. Colorado State catching 33 against Texas tomorrow. Reason being is Texas had a pretty big game last year against Alabama. They went on the road to win that game, did not cover their first week spread. And this year they have to go up to Michigan next week in a big time game. So a little look ahead, 33-point spread for Colorado State. I'm taking them. And then also I went with Ohio State simply off of the trend that we had the other day where it's perfect. 14-0 since 2013. 2 teams in week 1 fit into this trend. And one of them happens to be Ohio State minus 48.5 against Akron. So I took the Buckeyes. I think that they're going to put it on them, possibly throw 60 up and have some fun at the ball yard tomorrow with that one. And then the third and final game, I'm going with the Irish. I'm taking the Irish plus the 3 on the road against A&M simply. I believe in Riley Leonard, and I think he has enough to make them hang in that game. Again, it's going to be tough environment to go in there, hear what's going on. Really tough for his first time in battle with Notre Dame, but he's battle tested. And I think, like I said, I'm going to roll with the better quarterback here, Riley Leonard, with the Irish catching 3 on the road against A&M. Your thoughts?
All right, so I'll start at the top with Colorado State plus 33. I'm on that as well. I forget the exact number I got. I got 32.5, but I like that look ahead angle as well. It's the same reason why I took Fresno State plus 21.5. They're playing Michigan. I think both teams try to keep it a little bit vanilla. And I think Texas and Michigan are two borderline playoff teams. Like those teams could, at the end of the season, both be vying potentially for that 11 spot. So they could use this tiebreaker as kind of a, or a head-to-head scenario. So I don't think either of those teams shows much this week. I think they kind of just want to get out of there healthy. So I do like the dogs in those games to cover. Ohio State minus 48.5. So I'm on Oklahoma tomorrow night, minus 43 against Temple. They're the other team they're the other team that fits into that trend. The trend was FBS versus FBS, favorites of more than 37.5. Yeah, or they're 14-0 against the spread and straight up. So if Oklahoma wins that tomorrow, I'll roll that over with you into the Ohio State Akron game. Notre Dame, though, I am on the Aggies. I think one of the biggest things in college football this year, and I don't think it was talked about nearly enough this offseason, is the helmet communication with the quarterback now. That slowed down that game a lot last week. And I know it didn't really have an impact on the game at the end of the day because Georgia Tech won. But the amount of times I saw Haynes King with his hands over the ears of the helmet, that's going to take some time to get used to. And he was doing that at a neutral site game. You got to think, that's in Ireland. Riley Leonard goes into Texas Station, the fourth biggest stadium in all of college football, college game day game, night game. It is going to be rocking in there. It is going to be super loud. You bring in a new offensive coordinator in Denbrock. Only 2 starters return. I think 4 out of the 5 starters on the offensive line are new as well. And then you couple that with Riley Leonard, played for Mike Elko at Duke. Duke last year, Elko brought all his assistants with him from Duke to Texas A&M. Duke played Notre Dame last year, held their own on the defensive side. So you think, all right, they kind of already have the game plan, the idea of kind of what to bring to this Notre Dame team. So I think there's just too many things working against Notre Dame in this one going on the road. You don't want to have all these kind of roster changes and all these new systems and everything in between going to Kyle Field in Texas Station. You want New Hampshire week 1, not going to Texas A&M.
You might have made me change my mind. I got to write then in the email and be like, "Yo, maybe I'm not so locked in on the Irish." Look, you know how it works. It is a perfect case, and it's really hard to combat all that other than the fact that, like I said, it comes back to the quarterback. So I'm going to roll with the dice on this one. I believe in Riley Leonard. Guy was a playmaker, man. He moved the chains. Tough SOB until he got hurt and he couldn't compete anymore. But even he was playing injured. And there's just a lot to like. But the angle as far as his former head coach, that's a tough one to really talk down on because he's got the scoop on how to at least slow him down, contain him. But we'll find out. We'll find out. Again, everyone started talking about Notre Dame and how they're locked to be in the college football playoff. And oh, by the way, they're in the best position if they do make the college football playoff because they'll be 5th or win it. Everybody was saying that. All right, well, let's test that theory.
Yep.
You're going to make the college football playoff. Most likely you got to win this game.
Yeah, they got Florida State, they got USC. Like, I'm down on Florida State. We saw them drop early, and I'm really down on USC. I think they're a 5-6 win team this year. That's the last game of the season. Notre Dame's schedule is pretty favorable, and I'm not even that high on A&M. I think my projection for them was 8-4. I think this is just a bad spot. Like, maybe if you fast forward 6 games into the season, feel a little bit more comfortable, but getting these guys week 1, as I said, with all those changes, new quarterback, former head coach, etc., it's just a terrible spot game, and that's why I like the Aggies in this one.
All right, so we are at least in agreement as far as with that trend, and as you said, Oklahoma 42-point favorites against Temple tomorrow night. We do have TCU and Stanford. That's a 9.5-point spread. That's going off at 10:30. Lehigh and Army. Army a monster 32.5-point favorite. Anything for you on Army or the TCU and Stanford game?
I like the TCU Stanford game to go over. I think that's like a
60 and a
fun.
half.
Yeah, I think that's a fun like week one game that's like kind of sneaky, like a good one. Like TCU Stanford, you're not really thinking elite brands in football right now, but I think that one is a fun game. Goes like 34-31 or something like that, and a little late night Friday night play to help you settle into Saturday. So I am on the over. I think I got it at 61.5 earlier this week.
Oh, Ryan Beef Coyle, it is a glorious evening here with YouTube TV, and I got 4 games and the one screen. Man, I'll tell you, I went to the Wells Fargo Center on Tuesday night, and I was up in the Bet Rivers Lounge, of course. And they had these 2 TV set up, and I'm just like, yeah, that's what I want right there.
Yeah,
And I was just like visualizing the 4 screens of the YouTube, boom, like because I moved into this place back in 2017. So I got a nice little setup with 2 TVs, but I would almost rather just the one gigantic screen
yeah,
as big as possible. And you know what's crazy, man? You go to Costco, these TVs are just incredible, and they're not like crazy expensive like they used to be. You can get yourself like a literally 85-inch TV, which is huge, or a 100-inch TV, whatever, for like under $1,000, 800-900 bucks. As much TV as we watch, why not make it great?
yeah. I got the 2 TVs in my bedroom, but I haven't done this since like college basketball Saturday. I'd carry them both down to the basement. Then you get the third TV in, you hook the 2 laptops up, and that's what I'll be doing until I go to bed tonight. So
Nice. That's what I'm talking about. All right, let's carry on as far as the card is concerned and give the people what they want, and a look at Saturday's games. And the action gets started with a few bangers. And we're talking Penn State and West Virginia holding steady at 8, which is really making me scratch my head. I figured there'd be money coming in on Penn State a little bit here, but I think West Virginia is slowly turning into a trendy underdog. So maybe we might see some line movement towards back towards their way, but I don't expect this to go under a touchdown. That's number one. Maybe 7.5, but let's just say it holds steady right now at 8 and 51.5. And then, of course, Clemson and Georgia, 13.5-point spread for them dogs. Carson Beck's ready to carve up Dabo and his defense down there in Atlanta, Georgia. 48.5 is our total in this one. Which one's speaking to you more out of those 2?
West Virginia, I think they're a live dog in that game. A little background info that is, making me a little bit hesitant on some trends with James Franklin, in terms of them succeeding with him. He's 20-12-1 against the spread as a road favorite. That's 63%. That's fits into this scenario here. And he's 56-38-3 against the spread as a favorite since he took over at Penn State. That's 7th best in the country. So, he's playing for that cover, but I think this is a little bit of a revenge spot here for West Virginia after going up to Happy Valley last year, kind of getting pushed around, and then Franklin kind of pulling the, cheap shot at the end, going for the cover. I think that's something that doesn't go, unheard of or unremembered in that West Virginia locker room. West Virginia went 9-4 last year. I feel like they were the least talked about 9-4 team this entire offseason. Returned 3 guys, including the quarterback, that rushed for 750 yards last year. Probably a top 10 offensive line in the sport. This is a game where they can kind of control the pace, play ball control offense. And when you look at Penn State, I think it was a good move for the long term. But they bring in the Andy Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator from Kansas last year. He comes over. That's a new offense you're going to have to get into. In West Virginia, big noon kickoff, that place is going to be drunk and rocking as well. So certainly not an easy environment to walk into. I think a lot of these scenarios look at the underdogs at home this week. That helmet communication thing, I'm telling you, is going to be a major factor this year. Instead of guys looking over to the sideline, you got to hear the play call. And I'm sure they practice that throughout the season, but you haven't done that in Morgantown, West Virginia with, 75,000 drunk screaming fans. So I think West Virginia is a live dog in this one. I have them at plus 8.5, but I'm not going to be surprised if we're sitting here on Monday morning talking about how West Virginia won that game and Penn State pulls a Penn State and kind of shoots himself in the foot for the expanded playoff after it was really made for them, as what we were kind of told.
That Clemson and Georgia game, what are we talking about offensively for Georgia? Lost a lot. with Ladd, McConkey, Brock Bowers last year. I think we even saw somebody transfer, if I'm not mistaken, but they did get somebody else that transferred from Florida, I believe. What are we talking about as far as their skill positions for Carson Beck, who's one of the more calm quarterbacks, who's going to sling it and very well could lead this, have himself a Heisman Trophy winning season?
Yeah, Dominic Lovett's back. Feels like he's been a guy that's been there forever, but he's back at the receiver spot. Ra Thomas, who from everything that I was listening to this offseason, was a guy that Georgia thought would be playing on Sundays, be like a top 100 NFL draft pick. He got kicked off, I believe it was for domestic violence. Trevor Etienne, the running back that transferred in from Florida that you mentioned, he got a DUI this offseason. There's rumors that he could potentially be suspended for this game. That's something that I don't think will come out until game time, but a lot of moving parts. As you said, Bowers out, McConkey out. It could take some time for Georgia to really get moving as well. I think that's really just kind of the theme of week one. So many teams with the transfer portal, the draft, etc. You got to break in these new players, and Clemson's defense is legit. I think this is a game that we see both teams kind of struggle to score. I'm really low on Cade Klubnik and the Clemson offense this year, but I think both defenses are elite top 10 units probably. They both come to play. I think the number's at 48.5. I think this is a slugfest. A few years ago, it was 10-3. I'm not sure if it's that low, but I could see 24-10 Georgia winning this game. I think it's a low scoring affair. And Carson Beck, as you said, McConkey, Bowers gone. Kendall Milton, the starting running back from last year, gone. Dominic Lovett back. But outside of that, not much reliable, former names. So Clemson's not a defense you want to mess around with either. I really think the under, if you're going to bet on that game, would be the smart play there.
Again, the small schools traveling, but packing a big punch. South Dakota State and OK State going down at 2:00 on a Saturday, 9.5-point spread for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. They're down there in Lubbock. So I'm curious where we stand as far as in this one, because as far where I'm at, Beef, I want to give credit where credit is due, and South Dakota State has been tremendous in the past 2 seasons. As I said, they didn't lose in forever, and this is a huge spot for that program. I do expect them to go down there and hang and not shut down OK State, because we know on offense they're packed, but at the end of that game, for some odd reason, something is telling me that South Dakota State's going to be in the thick of it. I don't know. Maybe Gundy's finally got himself a juggernaut of the squad. I don't even know if he's a good coach, but he's been there a hell of a long time. So he's doing something right. But this is an interesting game to open up the season here. I'm curious to know your thoughts and whether or not you have a lean in either one way on this one.
Yeah, Gundy, his teams shoot themselves in the foot. I mean, that's kind of their MO. They'll have one of these head-scratching losses. They had last year 33-7 to South Alabama. It was within the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season. It's like, what the hell? And Oklahoma State goes on to have a good year from there. They're my pick to win the Big 12. I think the returning continuity of this roster is one of, if not the best in the entire country. 18 starters, I think it's back. The entire offensive line, the best running back probably in the country in Ollie Gordon, 7th-year quarterback. And then when you look at South Dakota State, you were talking about it earlier, hasn't lost since 2022, but half of the starters from last year's team are gone. New quarterback in the fold as well. So it's a South Dakota State team that is going through a lot of changes, and you're going up against a really experienced FBS team here in Oklahoma State. I think they kind of get pushed around at the line of scrimmage. It's rare that you ever see 5 starting linemen back. They even have they can go, I think it's 9 or 10 deep on that offensive line with guys that have started multiple games at the college level. That's unheard of. So even if guys get hurt, this Oklahoma State team has the depth to really compete all year. I think it's a statement game by Gundy, and I tweeted out earlier, and it was kind of jokingly, but Gundy did say it's like, Gordon's not getting suspended for his DUI. His punishment is I'm going to hand him the ball 35, 40 times against South Dakota State. And, if that's the scenario, kind of goes back to what I said about Travis Hunter and Shador. North Dakota State hasn't seen 2 cats like that. South Dakota State hasn't seen a cat like this. That's what it comes down to. X's and O's, but they got the Jimmies and Joes.
No, you're right about that. So it's hard to argue, but we'll see how that one shakes out. And next game up here on the card that we'll get into is Miami and Florida. Game being played in the Swamp, one that you're very passionate about. You've been talking a lot about Cam Ward and the Hurricanes all off season long. So here's their opportunity to prove you right. with the win on the road in the Swamp. 54 is our total game, 3:30 p.m. Juices are definitely going. What type of team are we going to see out for Florida? I think this is they could possibly, if they have a losing season this year, it'll be 3 straight seasons with a losing record. So that's something you don't think of with Florida here. Miami, though, it feels like that's another team that likes to shoot themselves in the foot with any expectations. They find a way to lose a game. I don't think, we were talking about them the other day as far as the success that they've had in the ACC, or the lack thereof. But this is the year, according to folks like you, and it has to all start with Cam Ward. Is he the true difference maker in your mind?
I think he's legit. He's a guy I was really high on the past couple of years at Wazoo. I think this is a great transition for him. This is by far the most talented team he's ever played on. You got to remember, he started his career at Incarnate Word. Just imagine the difference in talent that he has now. And I think when you look at this Miami roster, you point to every single spot. You point to the running backs, the receivers, the tight ends, the line, the quarterback, the secondary, you name it. I think Miami is better at every single spot than Florida. And I would take Cristobal still over Billy Napier as well. And I do think one of the things where Florida, with the home field advantage of the Swamp, they're used to practicing in that heat all summer. That's not going to phase Miami. That's not really much of a home field advantage for them in that scenario. And I do think, like, if Miami gets up early, just say Miami goes up 2 scores early, that fan base already wants Billy Napier gone. Those Boo Birds are probably coming down early. I don't know if they do it like we do in Philadelphia, but that stadium gets tight real fast. I think Billy Napier already feeling the pressure, and Miami's kind of off to the races for there. Miami, I got them running the table, actually going undefeated, 13-0. So
Woo!
I'm gonna look back. I'm gonna look back on this, and they're 100% gonna lose to the Gators in the Swamp this weekend. But I'm really confident on this team. I do think Cam Ward is the guy. If he goes 13-0 this year, he's probably your Heisman Trophy winner as well. But him, Damian Martinez, and at the running back, it doesn't get much better than a 1-2 punch there. The recruiting classes that Cristobal's had, it's all kind of been building up and pointing to this. So I'm all about the U this year. I think it's a legit team to win the ACC. And that Florida State loss the other day made me feel a lot better about it as well.
So 5-7 to 7-6, with a loss to Rutgers in the Pinstripe Bowl, to 13-0 undefeated, winning the ACC, getting the number 2 overall seed, number 3 overall seed in the
I had him at
playoffs.
1 because I have all the other teams losing, but look what Sark did at Texas. I think it was the same exact thing. 5-7, 7-6, and he goes 12-2, goes to the
I'm a
conference.
Cristobal guy. I thought it was a great hire. Of course, the connection there that obviously makes it so. Like, no matter what I say, it was a good hire. Now he's got to deliver, and
Yeah.
you do read the fact that he's able to recruit, and why not, man? It's the U. Turn it around. That's another program, a lot like Colorado, not so much in true, just as far as history is concerned, but just with Dion. It's like, if Miami's good, people are going to pay attention. If Colorado with Dion is good, of course, Dion's good, people are going to pay attention. So I'd like to see that from a college football fan's perspective.
Yeah,
All right.
the same thing about
Take the
Nebraska
Canes.
as well.
Yeah, take the Canes here. All right, let's go ahead. Keep it moving as far as next game's up on Saturday. That game, once again, going off at 3:30 here. Next one up for us here on the card. Let's go ahead and let's get to the later in the evening games here and start talking a little bit about the nightcap, because that's really where the good ones are. And we already hit on Notre Dame and Texas A&M. All right. Not really. What's another game that you're looking at as far as Saturday night is concerned after the Florida and Miami game?
I have on my card, I have UNLV plus 2.5. I think they win the game outright as well, going to Houston.
Okay.
It's a pretty interesting game there. UNLV was one of the top 5 teams against the spread last year, 10-4 against the spread. They played in the Mountain West title game. I feel like that wasn't really talked about enough, because UNLV, for as long as I can remember, has been a doormat. So that's a spot I like there. Houston, first year with new head coach Willie Fritz. From what I heard about him, he's kind of a slow builder. It's not like a flip the switch overnight type of thing. So I'm expecting Houston to be a 2-10, 3-9 type team in the Big 12 this year. UNLV returns a lot. The quarterback actually transferred to USC. He's only their backup though, so that was a bit of a head scratching move. But I like the Running Rebels to go to Houston and get an outright win. But I took them with the points there at +2.5.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And again, there's a lot of, odds and ends for a few of these teams. Of course, Michigan's in action. You got the late one with UCLA and Hawaii. But we've already hit on Notre Dame. That's definitely a big one with Texas A&M. That's the night one. You got Michigan in action against Fresno State 21 there. Georgia Tech back in action against Georgia State. That's a big time number for Georgia Tech, 20 and a half.
It's an interesting one.
Yeah. Anything there for Georgia State that you can give us here?
No, I haven't kept up on the Panthers that much this offseason, but
yeah, I would just because I immediately
could be a letdown
think,
spot.
Yeah, I think 20 and a half is just too many, a little bit of an overreaction. I think there was a bump as far as the number is concerned. Georgia Tech did look good running the football, but passing it, taking shots downfield, 20 and a half is probably right around the right number. So
I think the stat was since week 0 started, teams that did not play in week 0 compared to their opponent in week 1, the opponent is 34-20 against the spread. So in that scenario, you'd be looking at, I believe it's Houston Christian this week playing SMU, Georgia State in this game. Boston College fits that narrative as well. UCLA fits that narrative UCLA fits that narrative. So the rest versus rust kind of theory there. I think it's more valuable to have some film on the opponent. So you could look at it at that angle as well.
All right, quickly, 2 on the way out here. Sunday, standalone game for college football, 7:30 p.m. LSU and USC. 4-point spread for my family. LSU here, 64 is our total in that one. Beef, where's this game being played at, sir?
Vegas.
Oh, in Vegas. All right. So with that being said, 4-point spread, USC, good traveling fan base. I'm sure LSU is going to have some people out there as well. I'll give the advantage to the Trojans, though. Lincoln Riley's licking his chops to get out there because people are doubting him, especially on offense with, him losing Caleb Williams. He's got his quarterback in there. 4-point spread, a little surprising from LSU. And again, their defense was atrocious. You have to expect it'll be a little bit better this year, just from the sake of law of averages. Offensively, though, are they going to take a hit because they lost a lot of people? Where are you at with this one?
LSU -4 is my favorite play of the week. I think this is a welcome to the Big Ten moment for USC, and they get it from a team probably in even upper echelon there in the SEC with LSU. I'm really low on USC this year. They're one of my favorite unders. I got them at under 7.5 total wins. I just don't think that they're built up front on either sides of the ball to contain or to play with these teams in the Big Ten. LSU has, in my opinion, the best offensive line in the country. I think it's a prop too that I'm going to look at, depending on how successful I am on Saturday. But LSU first drive touchdown. I think it's a scenario where LSU kind of just comes out, blows them off the ball from the start, and kind of just runs it down their throat. They are a team that is ushering in a lot of new faces. Daniel's gone, Thomas and Neighbors to the draft. So it could take some time. But when you have a veteran offensive line up front, and USC, they said the same things last year, brought in good recruits, brought in talented transfers. That team was just getting ran off the field basically each and every week on the defensive side of the ball. They brought in the UCLA defensive coordinator. He's supposed to make a big difference, but I really think LSU kind of gives USC a welcome to the big leagues type of moment in this game. And it was even rumored throughout the offseason that Lincoln Riley was desperately trying to get out of this game. So I think he's kind of afraid of this matchup as well. But I do think we see some fireworks and some points between two teams that had terrible defenses last year. And as you said, even if they do get better, it might take some time because there's a lot of moving pieces.
64 is our total in that one. So, yeah, I think we will see some points out there in Vegas. And that is, once again, Sunday night in the standalone spot. And then we close up shop on Monday, Labor Day Monday. Oh, man, the Tuesday scaries, right? Isn't that what we would say there? The Boston College, 16.5 beef. It's down to 16.5. Florida State favorite, of course, coming off of that tough loss to Georgia Tech. This was a 22-point spread as recently as the couple days before that kickoff against Georgia Tech. 50s are total in that one. This is being played in Tallahassee, the Seminoles or Boston College. Which way are you looking at here, Beef?
I'm interested to see kind of if you could, because I know you got the 22. Like, would you like maybe middle there and take FSU minus a 16.5 and think they win by 20 or something? I think it might be a little bit of an overreaction line. I do think the under is a good play here, though. Thomas Castellanos, the quarterback at Boston College, great with his legs. I'm interested to see how Bill O'Brien uses him in this system because, as we know, he's more of a traditional drop back guy. Does he kind of let Castellanos be the playmaker that he is? I think we see a lot of running in this game. We saw last week with Florida State's passing game. It's an inept passing game right now. Florida State's running game, though, they have some guys that can run the football. Toafili, Rodell Williams. I think that's a team that is going to get better on the ground as the year goes on. But this number at 49, like I could see it being 27-20 or something like that, kind of hovering around that number. So I think the under would probably be the play for this one if I had to make one as of right now. But it's going to be I'm going to kind of wait and see if this number on the spread moves a little bit more, because if it goes down, maybe if it gets down to 14.5 or something, 14, I might look to take Florida State with that instead, because I do think you get a pissed off Florida State team coming out this week.
Yep. Well, again, these are this is information that you want to plug into the back of your head because, again, it's a long weekend, but those are the only 2 games left. So standalone games we're definitely going to have action on, and we'll see what we can get going if we can get a couple dubs there. All right, let's update some action just to let everybody know before we get out of here. You got Western Carolina driving. I think they just took a punt, I think it was a punt down to the Wolfpack 5-yard line. So it's looking like Western Carolina is going to go up early in this game. Scoreless at this point in time there. As far as celebrities, that's always important. Celebrities out there in Boulder, Colorado. I bet you it's beautiful out there tonight. It looks like it is. Sun shining. T.O. on the sideline. Place is already packed up. You got Travis Hunter and everybody showing off. Man, this is going to be a fun little game to be plugged into to watch this evening. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. And I know you mentioned you're going down the shore. You might be able to throw some player props in there in Jersey. That's a little fun little market you can do at college for the college players in New Jersey. Maybe look at that guy Thomas Castellanos, as I was mentioning, to have some success on the ground himself. That should be a fun little different angle that you're kind of not used to being a
No,
PA.
you're right. I would look at Cam Ward, because I don't think Florida's defense is ready. If Cam Ward is going to have a special day, I think he's going to light it up. So I'm curious to see what his numbers are. Riley Leonard rushing would definitely eye that up. Riley Leonard rushing touchdown, definitely eye that up. Again, I would look at quarterbacks and quarterbacks only. If I was out there tonight, then I would probably look at, of course, Shador, but Hunter as well. But yeah, it's exciting. That's an interesting little outlet there that I'll have to check out as far as props are concerned. All right, Beef up front. Fantastic stuff here on a Thursday. We're going to do a lot. We did a full hour here, and I'm going to play a bit of the best of on the Daily Ticket tomorrow. So if you missed anything, catch it at foxphlgambler.com. Stream us on the iHeartRadio app. The show starts at 3 p.m. Beef, good luck on those plays, man. And as always, you can't win without Beef up front.
Yes, sir. Let's go. We're here. We're ready. Let's have some fun.
All right. Thank you to Nick behind the scenes helping us out, getting some stuff on some socials there. As always, Ryan Coyle 35. Give him a follow, mandatory if you don't already. And Beef up front at foxphlgambler.com if you missed anything. Peace.